We shall have our Justice Thursday's conversation on Friday because we have the head of the judiciary, the Chief Justice, the Honorable Justice Martha Koome, who's the Chief Justice and President of the Supreme Court, is joining us for this conversation. Madam Chief Justice, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Latif.
It's good to have you here in person. We had a conversation with you, but it was at the height of COVID and with all the restrictions, and also we had it virtually. But here you are, and it's an honor to have you in the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
No, thank you for honoring your promise to come to the show.
Indeed.
Yes.
City, we'll start the hour with the day's proverb. It's from Uganda.
It is from Uganda.
Yes.
A dog with a bone in the mouth cannot bite you.
A dog with a bone in the mouth
Cannot bite you.
cannot bite you.
Yes, even if you wake up very early in the morning, it still can't bite
Whatever
you.
you do.
It can't bite you.
Eh?
Because the apparatus it uses for biting
Yes.
is otherwise engaged.
Madam Chief Justice, when you hear that, it's a proverb from Uganda. A dog with a bone in the mouth cannot bite you. And the word, we have to be very specific. Bone in the mouth.
And also, proverb from Uganda.
What's your translation of this? What's your immediate interpretation?
Always give the dog a bone to confuse it so that it will never bite you. It will be busy with the bone.
Keep a dog busy and you're safe. That's a nice one. That's a nice one. Today is the 20th day. Okay, for purposes of this conversation, we're going to say we'll jump into May and then we'll come back to March later. It's the 20th day of May 2022. Tomorrow is the 21st day of May 2022. History was made on the date like tomorrow last year, when the Honorable Justice Martha Koome became the first woman Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya. You assumed office on that day. And you came in and you promised that you're going to give it your all to the service of the country. It's been 1 year in office. We're having this conversation to reflect your 1 year in office as Chief Justice. Of course, you are not new to the judiciary. You had been in the judiciary. You are not new in the legal system. You had been working in your professional life in the legal system. But when you came in, you said, I have a vision for the judiciary and I have a vision for the country. And you called that vision social transformation through access to justice. Tell us about that. What was the thinking behind it? Social transformation through access to justice.
Thank you for having me. 1 year in the office. It's a remarkable period when we reflect on what we have been able to do within 1 year. But more importantly was the launch of the vision, the social transformation through access to justice. This is a build-up on the former frameworks that were there. After the 2010 Constitution, it is envisaged that the judiciary must be transformative. The judiciary must be responsive to the aspirations of Kenyans. And we, judges, judicial officers, and everybody working in the judiciary must serve the people efficiently and must do so without undue technicalities. In other words, we must make justice accessible to the people. And my predecessors had done an amazing job to come up with the Judicial Transformation Framework, the Honorable Dr. Willy Mutunga, that laid the groundwork, the foundation for transformation. And my predecessor, Justice David Balaga, continued with sustaining the judiciary transformation by just scaling up what Dr. Willy Mutunga had started. And for me, we have to continue with that trajectory, but taking another perspective that unless we transform the society, we cannot transform the judiciary. Hence, the social transformation. We must aim at empowering the people so that they can hone the justice. Because justice cuts across everybody. Everybody wants to be treated fairly and justly. Everybody wants to access justice. Everybody wants to be treated with dignity. So this is not for the judiciary alone. We must demystify it and say it is ours as Kenyans. we are entitled. And for us, we are your servants to just serve you and ensure that we treat you with dignity when you come to court. You do not have to come to court year in, year out. You do not have to travel 200 kilometers to access a court or a place where you can meet justice. Yes.
Even as we talk about the 1 year and the anniversary of from the time you took up this position, what would you say are some of the most difficult hurdles you've had to overcome?
There are very difficult hurdles that I have encountered. Some I anticipated before I came into the office because they were in existence. There was this stalemate regarding the appointment of the 41 judges. One passed away, unfortunately, before. And that was a major hurdle because the delivery of service was slowed down tremendously. We don't have judges, and we cannot move forward. So that was a major hurdle. The other one was the state of infrastructure of the judiciary. If you expect the judiciary with 54% of the human resource capacity to serve 50 million Kenyans, is a tall order. Also, the buildings themselves, the infrastructure, technology, and all that also needs to be matched. This is a 13 trillion economy. Nairobi is the hub of commercial activities. We do not have the infrastructure to be able to serve that kind of population and that kind of economy. So what I realized is that the judiciary has been left behind in terms of development for maybe 30 years. So it requires a Marshall Plan for it to reflog and be able to respond to the expectations of our commercial justice, of our resolving all the disputes that we come across, and hence the mega program of opening the doorways to justice using other mechanisms, court annexed mediation, arbitration, alternative justice system, small claims courts, and really getting courts nearer the people.
You know, those ones that you've talked about, there are times when you have a conversation here with whether it's judges, whether it's magistrates or directors of the judiciary, or various arms of the judiciary, and you're talking about like court annexed mediation. We're talking about alternative justice system. It's, to many people, it sounds like, you know, what has happened is we are devolving access to justice and making access to justice more decentralized. You have various ways in which you can get justice. Some are faster than if you went through the structured system, what is normally known as the judicial system, going to the courts. Now, still, there's an issue of the human resource capacity that you've talked about. When you say that the judiciary has a staff complement of 54%, what does that mean? Where is the 54% figure derived from?
It is derived from the real statistics of the number of people we have in place. For instance, the establishment for the High Court judges RATIF is 200 judges. We only have 70 in place. So that is how it is derived at. The Court of Appeal, they are supposed to be 30, although in my view, they should even be 50. But the establishment is 30. And we only have 20 in office. And it goes on like that. I think it's only the Supreme Court which has a full complement. Also a very low threshold, 7 judges. And 7 judges present a big challenge because the quorum for the Supreme Court is 5. So you can imagine you are always leaving two, and these two are probably judges who have sat in the matter either in the High Court or the Court of Appeal, because I think 4 of us have been judges before. So it's always a very difficult balancing act to get the quorum for the Supreme Court, especially when the matter has come all the way from the High Court, the Court of Appeal, to the Supreme Court. So these are the challenges, but challenges that can be surmounted, not difficult. If there is goodwill and there is provision for what is required, budgetary allocation, we would be able to surmount this.
Madam Chief Justice, as you talk about these surmountable challenges, even before your appointment, one of the big issues was funding of the judiciary. And you came in and you said this, that it was clear that funding to the level which would be acceptable needed to happen to make sure that this access to justice actually happened. Have you seen an improvement, or at least a pledge to make funding to the judiciary more acceptable over time?
The discussions we've been having with the legislatures, the members of parliament, especially the 2 relevant committees to the judiciary, the committee that deals with budget allocation and the legal committee, they have been very, very positive. That they have actually understood the need for the judiciary to be allocated enough resources, because if you expect the judiciary to deliver, then you have to give the judiciary the where or whither for them to be able to deliver. So I am very hopeful. It's work in progress, and I think sometimes when you live in a country like Kenya that is very vibrant, that has so many competing interests as far as the budgetary allocation is concerned, you just have to be patient, but keep urging for your case, because you know a country is like your mother. You know what your mother is capable of doing and what they are not capable of doing. But it's always good to keep sending your wrist.
Keep asking for your bone.
Yes, keep asking for your bone and keep saying, this bone is so small. It can't fill my mouth. It's leaving space.
Does it say something then for you? And again, something that you talked about in communication that we saw coming from your office, in terms of the independence then of the judiciary. Because if we're looking at arms of government who are supposed to work in a complementary fashion, here you are saying to one arm of government, then allow us to operate. Does it then bring into question the stability of the independence of the judiciary if you're asking all the time, please consider us?
Which ought to have been settled 12 years ago. When the Constitution of Kenya established the Judiciary Fund. What has stood on the way of the establishment of the Judiciary Fund for 12 years? I think that's a big question to ask Kenyans, because it is the Kenyans who enacted the Constitution, but it has not been implemented. But I'm happy to report that over the last 1 year since I came in the office, I found a lot of work had been done towards the establishment of the Judiciary Fund. There was an act, Judiciary Fund Act, and the regulations. And I took them up, and I'm happy to report that come 1st July, we are starting the Judiciary Fund. It is set, it has a number, it has been tested, and it has been loaded with the budget for the 2021-2022 budget. So that is a milestone, because once you get our funding, our money put in our fund, then we are delinked from the National Treasury. We are delinked from the HIFMIS, where we make requests all the time. And then sometimes also we run without money because the money came in late. And then it also went back because we could not absorb it because of the tight period within which you have to do procurement, which is also very strenuous. You can't just do it quickly. For instance, if you are doing a construction, there are so many things you have to do before you can access the money. And by the time you do that, the time for the money has ended, and therefore you are supposed to close your books and then wait for another allocation in another quarter. So the Judiciary Fund will help us now manage our fund without stress.
Does it give you a guaranteed access to the fund? And I'm asking this in the context of our county governments. So we have a structure, again, from the Constitution on how revenue shall be shared between the national government and the county governments. There's a law that is passed in Parliament on the division of revenue. Then there's a law that's passed in the Senate on how much each county should receive. But every quarter, you will hear the Council of Governors complaining about the disbursement of this money from the National Treasury. Despite it being in law, this is the amount of money that this county should be receiving. Does the Judiciary Fund safeguard you from those games that we've been seeing with the National Treasury and the counties?
When it comes to the allocation of the fund to the county, the specific allocation, the quota, I think the counties are better off than the judiciary because it is spelled out, the percentage that they are going to receive. Wound over in other jurisdictions, they always have a percentage. The average is 3% of the national budget that should be given to the judiciary. But we haven't reached there. We are arguing that should be the case also for the judiciary. Because the judiciary is everywhere. When you talk about the county, judiciary is in the 47 counties. Almost 130 court stations all over the country functioning. Parliament is only in Nairobi. But judiciary is always getting a very, very small percentage of the budget, when you compare it, I think even with the smallest county. The question you asked is whether our budget will be ring-fenced when the money is put in the Judiciary Fund. I think that would be the case, but if it's just this small drop in the bucket of 18 billion, then it is still not enough. Even if it's ring-fenced, about 50% of our programs, activities, budgeted items will still remain unbudgeted for and unfunded.
So you're saying, looking at your tenure, Madam Chief Justice, you've been somebody who says, let's take the small gains as we go for the bigger gains. Looking at what you said about the appointment of the judges that we had initially, so some were not appointed, but you said, let's get the ones that have been appointed and we continue. It's the same thing I'm hearing you say. We have the Judiciary Fund. Ideally, we should have, this amount completely decided at the top level. It's a percentage of the national budget. We are not yet there, but we have the fund. Let's start with that. Let's move as we get what we are getting. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, absolutely, because I think it's common sense that let's have this Judiciary Fund going as a first step, because you can't just refuse it and then you continue suffering and you don't know for how long. And it has been now 12 years. Let us have it with the 18 billion and then we move from there. Because when we have the Judiciary Fund, then it's easy even for us to fundraise from partners. They can be able to put money in the Judiciary Fund. It's a basket fund. Then we tell them, we'll give you a report. You want us to do technology because it is in the best interest for us to work on technology, or you want us to work on a particular program, access to justice for the poor. We need to cascade all these small claims courts in all the areas where we have courts, and even in other areas where we don't have courts, we can start small claims courts. Put the money in the basket fund, and we will put them, and we will work it. So it is better when it's open, when it's operationalized. It will work.
Let's take a break. I know, City, you have a question. Let's do the question after this break. It's 8:30. This is Kenya's biggest conversation on SpiceFM, on YouTube, on Facebook, and on KTN.
This is The Situation Room the only way to start your day.
It's Eric Latif, Ndu Oko, CT Muga, and our guest today. Instead of Justice Thursdays, we're having it Justice Friday. So we can commemorate just a day ahead of the Chief Justice commemorating 1 year in office. The 21st day of May 2021 is when she came into office. The Honorable Chief Justice Martha KOOME is with us in the studio. CT, you had a burning question.
Actually, yes,
Keep it
it's something that's
burning.
been on my mind for a while because the vision that the Chief Justice had when she took office is clear. What it hopes to achieve is clear. The manifestations of it that we are seeing through implementation of the nuts and bolts of that vision, clear. But everything that should make it possible and to make the dream realizable is not in the Chief Justice's hand. It's in the hands of other arms of government. It's in the hands of Parliament. Now, it's in the hands of the executive. They have a part to play. Now, the question I wanted to ask is, in your mind, as a Kenyan and as a Chief Justice, do you think that our lawmakers and your sister and brother arms of government are actually ready for the vision that you have and for a judiciary that is what you have envisioned? Are they ready for it? I ask this because the part that they play always seems to fall short. You don't allocate money for yourself, somebody else does. You have a clear vision, you have an understanding of what you require, you never get it. So I have to ask the question, are they really ready for this judiciary that you envisioned?
Thank you very much for that question. This is a conversation we must have with the executive, with the legislature, and also with the Kenyans. What kind of judiciary do they have? They have already spoken to the kind of judiciary they have through the Constitution of Kenya 2010, a very robust judiciary that is responsive to their aspirations. If we want this country to grow economically, if we want to enhance our democracy, our very volatile democracy, then we just have to grow a very strong institution of the judiciary. And a very strong judiciary requires human resource capital, because that's what we need to be able to deal with the cases that we receive. We need infrastructure. We need buildings. We need technology. We need wherewithal for us to be able to operate in every corner of this country. Because there is no justification for some counties not to have courts available for somebody. For instance, a child who has been defiant to walk for 200 kilometers to go and seek justice. They cannot even do that. So we must be responsive to every Kenyan wherever they are. They are entitled to judicial services, the same way they are entitled to health and water. So this conversation must be taken to all those in office. I've seen it become a campaign agenda that we will provide the budgetary allocation that is required. And perhaps I think that is that it should be, so that whoever is in office as the executive, they will remember what they promised to do. And if they really want to spur the economic growth of this country, you cannot leave the judiciary behind. You just have to allocate the resources. And if you allocate the judiciary resources, judiciary also actually is an income generating institution, because the services we render, some of them we charge. But we surrender everything that we receive back to the consolidated fund. So once you strengthen the judiciary, you actually make even the avenues of income generation more available to Kenyans. Because if I am a small business owner and I'm supplying goods, or I'm dealing with the businesses and people are taking my money and not even repaying me back, and I go to court and I'm in court for 10 years, then the business is killed. This is what we are doing with the small claims court. The turnaround time is 60 days. When you go to court, you get your judgment within 60 days. You get back your money. You go back to your business. So everybody should understand when you invest in the judiciary, there is a very high return into the economy and into the growth of the country, including the democracy of the country.
You sit with some of these officers as chair of NCAJ, the National Council on the Administration of Justice, where you're sitting with other justice actors, among them members of the executive. Do you have these conversations with them? Do you all agree that, yes, we need to fast track access to justice, and so all of us should lobby for increased funding and for assured and guaranteed funding for the judiciary?
We do actually, and that was realized also after the 2010 Constitution, that justice is a chain link. No one can operate and deliver from a silo. We must all work together, and we are a chain link. It is strongest as it is weakest at the weakest point. So we must all pull together, because if one drops, the ball will be dropped. And most certainly, it will be dropped at the judiciary, because we are the ones who proclaim I like giving this example of the judiciary as a fisherman who is sitting downstream, and the fish is coming dead. The fisherman is not going upstream to see what is killing the fish. He's just waiting and declaring dead. So that's what we do in the judiciary. When cases are brought to court, when they are poorly investigated, when they are poorly prosecuted, when the witnesses do not turn up, and these are mega cases with huge public interest implications, a lot of public money involved, or something of public interest. But we are there to declare it dead. It's not nice. And this is why we put a lot of premium in the National Council on the Administration of Justice, because that is the one that brings all the actors together so that we can all discuss our challenges and look for solutions. In those meetings, we actually discuss service delivery, what is impeding expeditious disposal of cases, because are we really serving Kenyans when we keep turning them away year in, year out? You have a criminal case, you're coming to court for 10 years. What kind of justice is that at the end of the day for the victim? The other day we had a case that was decided after 16 years. And I think the plaintiff was awarded. But by the time the plaintiff was awarded, the defendant was long dead. So what justice is that, really? So that is what we discuss, and we all are concerned about it. Everybody wants money. The police want money, prosecution want money, the probation want money. Every actor there, they all are talking of shortage of budgetary allocation. This is why I described our country as our mother. So we just have to nurture, not to stress the mother also, so that she dies, you know.
Have to keep her alive.
We have to pamper her and encourage and do what we have to do to keep her very strong. Yes.
You mentioned, a number of things. So the fish turns up dead at the end of the stream, and the judiciary declares, dead on arrival.
Yeah.
Because of certain factors that are, going on. So, I'm curious to note, because we have complaints upon complaints upon complaints about the length of time that it takes to adjudicate some of these things. Cases of public interest, for example, takes years for anything to be done. Is there one place where the blame lies squarely? Or is it a combination of factors, whether we're talking about inadequate evidence, when we're talking about inadequacy of prosecution and things like that? Because the judiciary can use, as you say, just declare it dead on arrival and can't do anything beyond saying, go back and get me more. Is that a direct link to the length of time that we see taken for some of this delivery of justice?
Yes, like you said, Udo, it's really a combination of factors. Also, I did not mention they are the parties themselves who do not want the cases to move. They are also the lawyers in the case. So what we are doing with this vision, we are not tolerating adjournment of cases. We are discouraging adjournment of cases. We are administering what we call dockets. Every judge, every magistrate has their own docket. And of course, we have our own performance contracting, where every judge is, and every magistrate or judicial officer or anybody has to say what they did every day. You have been at work, what did you do? I had so many witnesses, I delivered so many rulings or judgments or applications. We are accountable. We are independent, but we are accountable. We are accountable to people because we are paid by Kenyans. So what we are doing in the judiciary, we are urging everybody, and this is why we have a very vibrant court user committees and bar bench committees that are active, because these are our stakeholders. When we meet with them, we tell them this month, these are the cases we are going to hear, and they have been prepared for hearing, they are ready for hearing, so that the day they are listed, they must proceed. But you will see, if I owe you money and I don't want to pay you, I will use every excuse so that the case does not proceed on that day, so that I'm not adjudged liable to pay. And that is what we are saying. The court will not be used as the weapon of frustrating those who want to run away from their responsibility. Mm-hmm. So the day that it is fixed for hearing, even if you come and tell us you are in hospital, we shall proceed. After all, now there is a virtual hearing. At the very worst, we can connect you, and you can actually tell the court what you want to tell the court from wherever site you are. And then this case can move out of our records. So it's a combination of factors, like you're saying, but the judiciary must be very firm because we are the ones on the driver's seat to take the vehicle where it should go. So we refuse to be manipulated and to be used by those who want to frustrate the wheels of justice.
You know, Justice KOOME, the law gives you, as a Chief Justice, very many other roles. You're not only the head of the judiciary or the president of the Supreme Court, you've basically been made the head of justice system as chair of NCAJ and the others. So basically, it's like the law has told you, you are the mother of justice in the country. So when we see some actors, some players in that chain not performing, does the mother remove a slipper? This is what mothers do. If you're not doing it, you'll take out a slipper or the muiko and whip you. Are you whipping the other actors to make sure that they're doing what they should be doing? For example, the delays that are in court cases, it's because of, bar bench relations or investigators not doing their job properly, or the prosecutor coming to court and saying, I'm starting a case, but then making applications later, I want to consolidate these cases. That entire game is delaying justice. What do you do as Mama Justice?
Thank you very much. I've earned another title today, this morning at SpiceFM. Mama Justice, I don't mind it. Indeed, that's what we do at the National Council on the Administration of Justice. When we meet, we all have statistics. We all have a list of the challenges that we are encountering. And then this is mimicked at the court user committee level, because every court station as a court user committee, and they meet regularly also, and they are saying, why aren't our cases progressing? Why are we having in our docket cases that are 5 years old, 10 years old? And those cases are being turned around all the time, and they are being fixed for hearing. And these challenges are being discussed at that level because we talk about in the judiciary shared leadership, in the sense that even the magistrate, the smallest magistrate court, they are discharging justice. So they must be empowered to take leadership of their court and make sure there is no backlog of cases. Identify the bottlenecks that are impinging on the completion of these cases and discuss with the parties that are involved. Call them, say, I'm fixing your case for hearing. And then, because it is for us who control our own diary, and then come the day of the hearing, if they are not ready, three things will happen. First, they'll be given an opportunity to present their case. And if they are not there to present their case, they can be given an opportunity to withdraw it. And if they cannot withdraw it, the case will be dismissed. Yes, so that we move to the next level. And we can't be at one point forever. So that's how we are dealing with these cases. And I'm hopeful that next year, when we come to see how far this collaboration has gone, God willing, God working with us, we will be reporting that in our judiciary, we do not have those old cases.
You'll have cleared them.
Yes.
Let's talk about elections and election preparedness. You sit with other actors who are crucial in the preparations for elections and also in election cases determination. So you're sitting with the IEBC, you're sitting with the Interior Ministry, you're sitting with the others. And among the things that you've said is the judiciary is setting up special courts so that you can expedite hearing of these election-related cases. There's one that I want to ask you as President of the Supreme Court. I'm not asking for the details, I'm just asking. This particular case of Governor Sonko impeached God is sitting in the Supreme Court. There's a whole argument now in the public domain. A governor who's been impeached, should they run or should they not run in the next general election? A court yesterday issued some stay orders and said, okay, IEBC, do not clear this person first. But there's a case pending in the Supreme Court as the president of the court. Why is it taking so long?
Ratif, you know that I cannot answer that. That is a no-go zone because that is a completely live matter. I will not comment at all on that one.
Can I ask something else that you might be able to comment on?
Yes.
It's, for a lay person, it's a legal conundrum. On the one hand, from what we've heard, we have a case where we had a certain member of parliament who was not only found guilty by a competent court, but was even sentenced. Then they appealed. Now, from what we hear, we had a commissioner of the IBC explaining that according to the law, the moment you appeal, it's like the judgment that had been delivered is lifted and you are now innocent until proven guilty again. And yet, when it comes to people who've been impeached, from where I sit, it doesn't seem to apply, because if you're impeached, you're permanently impeached. Even if you have a case in court, you're still impeached. Is there a bit of a conundrum here, or is it that
I don't know, because when I listen to you, you answer the question. When you're impeached, you're impeached. When you are sentenced,
Madam Chief Justice,
until the sentence is set aside.
Yes, I'm not as bright as I sound. I'm actually explain this to me so that I understand it.
That is exactly what it is. If you are impeached until that impeachment is lifted.
And if you take the matter to court, if you're still impeached.
Of course, until the court lifts the impeachment.
Yeah, so now.
And so is the sentence. If you have been sentenced, you are actually sentenced until the sentence is set aside.
So if you appeal, you're still sentenced.
You are still sentenced. The appeal does not take away the sentence.
You see, why I ask is, we have a case where somebody was sentenced, went to the appellant court, and they're back in Parliament. So I'm thinking now, so that sentencing, what was that all about?
Yes, I think we interpret the law the way we like to, for our benefit. Of course, if I want to benefit, I will interpret it the way I want. Therefore, but the law remains the law. Yes.
In cases of corruption, Madam CJ, many times there are those who will actually out there and accuse the judiciary of being the bottleneck for corruption. This is where corruption cases come, and either they die or they build a home and they just sit for a long time. What are you doing to reverse that perception, the public perception, that it doesn't matter what we see in the public, as long as someone has been arrested, kamata, they're taken to court, forget it. It'll still there for forever.
You remember when I took office a year ago, I said to Kenyans that the judiciary will not be the parking lot for corruption cases, as it did all the other cases. And I was genuinely concerned about the amount of time these cases take in court. And since I came in office, I've had to look at that docket because it is my responsibility to ensure that there is efficiency in everything that we do. I think there are some other fundamental problems that we might have had in that corruption court. We call it anti-corruption court. In terms of the way the cases are presented. Because if you present a case with 90 witnesses and half a ton of documents, it will actually require a miracle to happen, especially during the COVID period. You needed a mega tent to bring, also, I should have mentioned, when you have 20 or more accused persons in one case. If you have 20 or more accused persons, each one of them is coming with 2 or 3 lawyers. Then they are coming with the witnesses. Then they are coming with their friends and relatives. You will actually need a mega tent. Even starting that case, the logistics of even just starting that case becomes nightmarish. And these have been the conversations we've been having with the DPP and also the police and everybody in the National Council on the Administration of Justice. And indeed, we put together a specialized committee to look at all the bottlenecks we experience, especially in corruption cases, and advise the National Council on the Administration of Justice on how best corruption cases can be moved. And we have made tremendous progress from there. There has been quite a bit of movement of those cases. I don't know whether you have been following, because some of those recommendations have been put in place, especially combining the witnesses. You don't have to bring the 90 of them. Select the critical ones and bring them. Instead of 90, you can bring 10. And also, the DPP is very ingenious, exploring other mechanisms for resolving these disputes, like pre-bargaining. Because at the end of the day, if money was stolen from Kenyans, what makes sense to us is money back. Pay back the money, return the property that was taken. But we are making a lot of progress in that. And given another year, I think we'll be talking another story. Yes.
We want to thank you very much for joining us today, Madam Chief Justice. And congratulations as you commemorate 1 year in office. And we look forward to hosting you here throughout in the next year as you continue with implementation of the vision, the social transformation through access to justice.
Thank you very much, and thank you for hosting consistently the Justice Thursday that informs Kenyans about what we do in the judiciary, that demystifies justice, that informs Kenyans on the avenues and the remedies that they can seek if their rights have been violated, and also informing Kenyans about their rights and that we are there to serve them. Thank you very much for having me.
Asante sana.
Yes.